The disappearing neighbor. When the Thompsons moved into their new home on Maplewood Lane, they were excited for a fresh start. The neighborhood was quiet, with perfectly manicured lawns and friendly faces. Their first week passed smoothly, and every morning, as they left for work, they noticed an elderly man sitting on his front porch across the street. He would always wave with a warm smile. At first, they didn't think much of it. The man seemed friendly, but kept to himself. Day after day, he was there, same spot, same wave. The Thompsons felt comforted by his constant presence, as if he was the unofficial guardian of the neighborhood. But one morning, the old man wasn't there. The porch, once so lively with his presence, was empty. The next day it was the same. And the day after that. By the fourth morning, curiosity had turned to concern. The Thompsons decided to ask the neighbors about the man. "We've noticed the elderly man across the street hasn't been outside in days," Mrs. Thompson said to the woman next door. "Do you know if he's all right?" The neighbor looked confused. "What man? No one's lived in that house for years." Thinking she misunderstood, they asked around to more neighbors. Strangely, everyone gave the same answer. No one recalled an elderly man living there, and many said the house had been vacant for as long as they could remember. The Thompsons were baffled. They'd seen him every single day. Determined to get to the bottom of it, they decided to investigate the house. It wasn't hard to get inside. The back door was unlocked, creaking open with little resistance. The inside looked as if someone had just walked out. Furniture was covered in dust, but nothing had been packed away. Books still lined the shelves, dishes sat in the sink, and the faint smell of old wood filled the air. In the living room, they found a photo album on the coffee table. The pictures were faded, but unmistakable. There was the elderly man, much younger, smiling beside a woman and a child. The photos showed a happy family, birthdays, Christmases, moments of joy frozen in time. The last photo was dated 20 years ago. As they explored further, they found more signs of the man's existence. Letters in drawers, old clothes in closets, but no trace of where he could have gone or why the neighbors didn't remember him. That night, as they sat in their own home, piecing together the strange mystery, they noticed something odd. Lights were flickering in the old man's house. But no one had lived there for years, right? The next morning, they returned, but this time the house looked different. The porch, once swept clean, was now overgrown with weeds, and the windows were grimy with age. It was as if the house had been abandoned for decades, despite what they had seen inside just the day before. Even stranger, the photo album, the letters, the belongings, they were gone. Feeling unsettled, they decided to visit the town's library to dig into the house's history. After hours of searching through old records, they found something chilling. The man they had seen had indeed lived there, 20 years ago. His name was Albert Green, and he had disappeared without a trace. According to the records, his wife had passed away, and shortly after, Albert had simply vanished. The neighbors assumed he had moved away, and over time, he had been forgotten. But that didn't explain why the Thompsons had seen him. Why had he waved to them every day? And why did his house seem to exist in two different states? One day abandoned, the next full of life. The final clue came in the form of an old newspaper article they found tucked in the back of a dusty file. It told the story of a hidden secret buried beneath Maplewood Lane, an old well, long since sealed over, where Albert's wife had tragically fallen and died. Some said Albert was never the same after that he became obsessed with the well, convinced it held the key to something more. Not long after his disappearance, the well had been sealed up, buried beneath a new road as the neighborhood expanded. The Thompsons returned home, more unnerved than ever. That night, as they lay in bed, they heard something they hadn't heard before, a faint knock coming from beneath the floorboards. The next morning, they packed their things and left Maplewood Lane for good.